And welcome to this morning's assembly. So I'd like to start off by giving you some music. So I'd like to invite Aiden in Year 9 to welcome us all with some piano music.
My name's Aiden and I'm going to be playing the Fallout 4 main theme.
Thank you, Aiden, for that lovely performance, and what a great start to assembly. So there's a little bit of pressure on me this morning. Mr. Slack has set a high standard, not just in YouTube views, but also in quality of assembly, and that was followed up brilliantly last week by Reverend Holger Gadsby as well. So today I'm going to talk to you about resilience, and in particular, mental and emotional resilience. The thing I'd like to talk to you about then is, what do I mean by mental and emotional resilience? Well, this is your ability to cope with difficult events and situations that happen in your life and how you go about recovering from them. It's how you respond to stressful or unexpected situations and crises. It certainly sounds about right for what everyone has been going through over the last 3 months. But when I think back to building resilience myself and a particularly stressful experience in my lifetime, I actually think back to the first time I went on holiday outside of Europe back in 2012. Now, I'm sure many would be aware of Innocence Movies, a fruit drink company. And back in January 2012, they organized a competition called New Year, New You, in which you bought their smoothies. There was a code underneath the cap of the different bottles, which you entered online to win different prizes, such as a pair of trainers or sports gear or gym passes. We entered the competitions, won a couple of pairs of trainers, but then also were absolutely stunned to find out that we had won their #1 prize, which was a 2-week fully paid holiday on the island of Koh Samui in Thailand. The idea being that it was a getaway, a chance to relax, recharge the batteries. So we booked this for the Easter holidays that year, and we all set to have our 2 weeks there. We journeyed down to Heathrow Airport, down to Terminal 5 for our flight, and we got there, and this picture's not the most accurate representation, but it was pretty busy. It was the Easter holidays. We checked in. At this point, there was nothing that had actually gone wrong with the trip. So what happened next? Well, about 45 minutes into the flight, the lights started flickering. The cabin went quite cold. The lights then went out, and then we heard, "Danger, danger, cabin depressurization." At which point the oxygen masks dropped down from the panels above our heads. That is, they dropped down above all the seats except for our own. Now, you'd be relieved to hear, And I hope that you're never in this situation yourselves, but there's always an additional mask for the number of seats. So I was able to get a mask from the row in front for my wife, and then a mask for the row behind for the old lady that was sat next to me. It did mean I didn't have a mask, so I got out of my seat to get a mask. At this point, staying unbelievably calm, at which point a flight attendant shouted at me and told me to get back into the seat and to stop shouting at everybody, which I did, albeit with a mask. And no, I wasn't shouting at anybody. So the flight turned around and it went back to London. There had been a slight cabin depressurization, which had activated the safety alarms on the flight, and they were going to try and repair this. So we sat on the tarmac at Heathrow Airport for what ended up being 4 hours, and they gave us some food, and I thought I'd show you a picture of what the food was like. Keep that one in your mind for later on in the story in my assembly. So eventually they told us that the plane couldn't be repaired, but not to worry, we're going to put you into a hotel at Terminal 5. Great, we thought, well, at least we might be able to get some sleep. We're looking at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. So we turned up at the hotel at Terminal 5, along with everybody else who had been on the plane. There was one person checking everybody in. They hadn't anticipated that we were going to be there, and then we were stood in a queue for another 2 hours, eventually getting to our room at 4 o'clock. And we were told, come down 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and there'll be more details about what's going to happen next. So we did. We came down to find out that our flight had been now completely cancelled, but they were going to schedule another flight, but was not going to be until 5 o'clock on the following day. So we'd meant to set off at 9 o'clock on Friday night, and now we were setting off at 5 o'clock on Sunday night. And that there was going to be food provided by the company. So we thought, okay, no flights today. We spoke to the airline representative at the hotel, and he said, yeah, absolutely no flights, don't worry, go into London, enjoy yourselves, have a day out. So we did. We went to London. We went to Covent Garden, went to a couple of museums and galleries. Bear in mind that we didn't have our suitcases, our luggage at this point. So we bought a few things and just tried to relax and started to try and enjoy the holiday. We returned to the hotel that evening to find the same representative who couldn't understand why we had gone into London that day. And in actual fact, he'd been trying to call us for the last 3 hours. Although he had our mobile numbers, he'd been calling the hotel room number that we were staying in and told us that we could have been on a flight at 5 o'clock that day and that he'd been trying to let us know. So we were a little bit disheartened, but we thought, you know what, okay, we're going to take matters into our own hands. We are going to go to the airport tomorrow morning and see if we can get on an earlier flight. So we did. We turned up at the airport at 9 o'clock on the following morning, and we got ourselves booked on a 12 o'clock flight, which was going to hopefully get us there a little bit earlier. Still no sign of our bags at this point as well. So we got on a flight to Mumbai. We had boarding passes for the first part of our flight, but not for the second part. And the gentleman at the airline check-in desk said, don't worry, when you get to Mumbai, just explain the situation, they'll be able to help you. So we arrived at Mumbai, and the rather official-looking army people at the airport wanted to know where our visas were. Well, we didn't have a visa because we weren't staying in India. We didn't have a transit visa for India, but nor did we have our boarding passes for our onwards flight. At which point we were basically put in a detention room for a number of hours while they tried to sort out what was going on. We weren't allowed to leave the detention room, and there were some rather unpleasant people outside with guns whenever we tried to do so. We were there with an American man who, from what we gathered from talking to him, had been put there because he was trying to carry things which he shouldn't be from one country to another. So eventually this man turns up, asks us for our passports, and we put a lot of faith in this man that disappeared for our passports for a couple of hours, and eventually he came back for our boarding passes. But we were able to then get on a flight from Mumbai then to Bangkok. So we'd finally got to Thailand. Just the next flight to Koh Samui. We'd been assured by the gentleman at Heathrow that, don't worry, we booked that flight ahead for you. We got to Bangkok, and there was no booking on that flight. So rather than having a connecting flight, we were then waiting in Bangkok airport for 12 hours for our connecting flight to Koh Samui. We checked about our bags. Are our bags on that flight? Yes, we've got the bags here in Thailand. Don't worry, they'll be on your flight. So at least we were relieved that we knew our bags were going to be coming with us. We arrived in Koh Samui, and we waited, and there was still no sign of our bags. We filled in the baggage form, at which point, thoroughly even more disheartened than we were before, we got in a tuk-tuk and then arrived at the hotel, albeit with no bags, but in a beautiful part of the world and in a tropical beach bungalow. Luckily, the following day, we had a knock on the door and our bags had arrived, having what looked like had a much better experience than we had, having gone through a much better airline and also possibly gone first class and direct as well. So we were in Koh Samui and we had a lovely couple of weeks. Well, it was less than 2 weeks because we had lost so much time of our holiday, but we enjoyed ourselves tremendously. And we had a great trip. And on the way back, the airline, because we complained at them bitterly about our initial experience, gave us a business class upgrade. And you can see the stark difference between what we had when we were sat on the tarmac at Heathrow in a plane that was 35 degrees hot to the lovely experience we also had on the way back. So, what's all this got to do with resilience? So, first of all, try and be positive. While it's easy to focus on the worst aspects of any situation, it's just really not good for building your own personal resilience. Even the worst possible situations have an upside. So while it may be difficult when something bad is happening, try and think about one kind of benefit you'll be getting out of it. You might want to think about things such as what you can learn from the experience, what this situation has helped you find out about someone, or what it's helped you find out about yourself. Secondly, appreciate your strengths. So remember, when you're going through something difficult, it's easy to forget how strong you are. Try to remember other times in your life when you've got through something challenging. My holiday experience is certainly one of those such. Remember how strong you were to get through those circumstances and take heart in the fact that you know you have the strength to get through whatever you're going through now. Next, take a step back. So while an issue, situation, or argument may feel very immediate and intense, the moment it happens, it's really helpful to ask yourself, how will you feel about the thing that's upsetting you in a week or a month or a year? I can certainly look back on this trip now with a degree of humour about what happened. Thinking this way about events and issues that affect you will help you have some perspective about how much you should let them bother you. And then finally, remember, you always have a choice. So what I mean by this is, whatever you're going through, you always have a choice as how you react to it. It may not feel like it, but it's completely up to you whether you let the situation defeat you or whether you have the strength to get through it. It doesn't make you weak if you decide that you don't have the strength at the moment. But remember that you always have a choice is great. And it's a good way to remind yourself that you have the power in any situation. And it's great for building emotional and personal resilience as well. We know that the last few months have been incredibly tough for you. And there have been some low times and that you may have struggled and that you may even be struggling now. It's okay to feel like this. And there are many other young people across the country who feel the same as you too. You can get through it. You're strong enough to get through it. And we know you have the resilience. So I hope you can take some of these points forward, moving forward into the summer holidays. I'd like to finish off by showing you a little video.
Does it look like?
It looks like me.
That's right. I want you to do everything that you can to knock your toy down. Who is the strongest in class? Jeron, come on up, please. I'm going to give Jeron a prop, and he's going to try to knock it off the table. Ready, Jeron? Okay, children, who can tell me what it means to have resilience? Yes, page?
Resilience means if you make the toy fall down, it'll come back up very, very fast.
Very nice.
Thanks for listening this morning. I hope that you enjoyed my assembly, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a great week.